Good evening and welcome to All for United WFC with me, Matt Crane. I'm delighted to be joined by the usual gang of John, by Gareth and by Anthony. How are we all doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks,
Matt.
Good. So a few things on the agenda tonight. We have got chat on the Lionesses from sort of their first half of tonight's game, the game last week. We're going to touch on the Olympics. Where did the sort of team need to go in terms of Lionesses and Team GB? And we're also going to look at creating our own Team GB squad as well. So before we get into that, John, do you want to just sort of talk and discuss the first topic on the agenda, and then we'll kick on from there?
Yeah, just a massive congratulations to Casey Stoney, the boss, and Mary Earps on the announcement earlier today that they've made the top. I forgot what it's called. Is it the player, the team of the decade? Celebrating 10 years of the WSL. So, you know what, for me, Casey Stoney is someone who I actually heard of before Manchester United. So, for me, who doesn't follow women's football from before Man United, it kind of made sense. And I'm glad that that's been recognised. So, yeah, I really just want to bounce it off to you guys because you followed the past 10 years longer than I have. So, Anthony, obviously just started with yourself. What do you think about Casey being nominated or being chosen?
I'm really happy. I think it's great that Casey's been chosen. She's obviously had a very successful career even before the WSL started. Obviously, with the likes of Arsenal and first time round, and Charlton, and even Chelsea, and that. And then obviously she went back to Arsenal because she wanted to win trophies. Don't forget, she's also captain England and Great Britain in the Olympics and has won like over 130 caps. So it's great that Casey's in it, and hopefully in 10 years' time we'll be saying Casey's the WSL manager of the decade. Fingers crossed.
It does make you wonder who's going to be the next 10 years. I mean, we've obviously got quite a lot of youngsters at Man United, and, you know, let's see how they get on. You know, maybe the likes of Tooney and Russo and LJ. Let's see how they get on in the next 10 years. But, Matt, over to yourself, your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I mean, no surprise really for me. I think, you know, saw a few comments, you know, sort of arguing with certain players. But I think if you look at that team really, and if anybody that's tuned in tonight has sort of seen the last 10 years of WSL, then, you know, it's hard to disagree. I think maybe there might be a case to probably omit Sam Mewis. I think, you know, she's only come in this season. So I think if I'm swapping anybody, that for me is the one that I would take out. But I think, you know, other than that, you know, Emma Byrne, very successful with Arsenal. Your back four of Faye White, Asante, Alex Scott and Lucy Bronze. Pretty much can't argue with. Farrah Williams is in midfield with G and Sam Mewis, and then you've got Frank Kirby, Miedemar and Rachel Yankee. Now, I think for me, and this is linked into sort of the player of the decade, I have Kelly Smith in there. Kelly Smith never even made the player of the decade. That was given to Miedemar. In fact, Kelly never even made the top 14. How? I honestly do not know. Speechless with that. But, yeah.
Hang on. Do you want to know why? If we're looking
because she left Arsenal and rejoined, is that it?
Well, it's because if we're looking at like the last team of the decade, she played like 20 games in the last 5 years.
I know she did. Yeah, she did go all back. It was in her career.
Yeah, it was all her career at Arsenal. It was sort of pre-WSL.
Yeah, pretty much before America as well. You
confuse me by talking about Sam Mewis because actually 2 different Telegraph reporters have done their own team of the decade. So the one that I was looking at, I was like, Mewis. I was looking at a completely different one.
Oh, was it Gary? Tom Gary, or is that his name? What's his name? Something Gary?
So Tom Gary's done one. Fiona Thomas has done one as well. And it was Tom Gary's that I was looking at. So, but yeah. Putting Mewis in was a weird one. But the rest of it, like, you know, I think if you look at Tom Gary's particularly, I don't see kind of anything there where I'm surprised, maybe surprised a bit at G getting recognised, because I think she's often a player that kind of goes under the radar, does her job, does it well. But yeah, I mean, it's a solid 1 to 11, that, isn't it? You know, can't really complain. There is a bit of recency bias maybe with some of the decisions, but you know, you look at Steph Houghton, although she's not having not a great season or great sort of last 12 months. You know, she was playing for Arsenal right at the start, captain of City, captain of England, you know, quality centre back, just sort of coming towards the end now, probably on that downward turn. But yeah, pretty solid squad.
I think for me as well. Go on, John.
No, so now I was going to reiterate Vic's point on there. We were talking about it before we went live about Miedemar, obviously. We were talking about Smith and Miedemar, and I think people are right. People only remember the recent history, don't they? They don't always remember what happened, say, for example, 10 years ago. People easily forget, and I think Gareth kind of just touched on it there. But sorry, Matt, you carry on there.
No, I was just going to say now, because I had Fiona's team on before, but I'm just now on Tom's team, and he's got, you know, a little bit of variation. He's got Kim Little in there, which I'd agree with, Karen Carney as well. But I was more surprised at Claire Rafferty. I mean, she was solid enough, you know, at left back for years, but she struggled massively with injuries. So I think for me, you know, it's difficult, and he has tweeted that. Tom, he said, you know, it's difficult to leave out the likes of Farrah Williams and Ellen White. You know, I agree. I think when it's sort of a starting 11, there's so many, isn't there, quality players that were sort of, you know, over the last 10 years, like I say, for those that sort of did watch back then, I can imagine that picking a bare 11 is very, very difficult. One that I sort of struggle myself, you know, as well. So, well, yeah, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? And then obviously, like Gareth said, we sort of get onto the debate about Kelly Smith. And obviously, like he said, it must be based on sort of, you know, the fact that she went back to Arsenal and didn't play too much due to sort of injuries and various other reasons, and it was sort of coming towards the end of her career. So I think, you know, had it been maybe the last 20 years, she would have possibly been in that, you know, starting 11 easily. I would have liked to have hoped anyway. I'm going to move on then to Lionesses. So obviously I'll start with you, Gareth, on this. So last week, played France, France's B team, got absolutely mauled for me. Wasn't very good, but I just want to, first of all, just get your thoughts on the game, really.
It was disappointing. I think the first half was particularly poor. I mean, I think we've all seen that clip from Nikita Paris at the end of the game. He pretty much nailed it, really. You know, first half was pretty poor. Second half was better. Had chances at 2-1 down to level the game. And if that happens, then it's a completely different story. And, you know, 2-2 is, you know, but we go to another end and concede pretty much straight away. So, yeah, pretty disappointing. You know, not a result that anybody kind of really wanted or expected. You know, you expect a tough game against France, but when you look at the players they had missing, you know, you kind of expect to be getting something from the game. But I also think it's important to kind of recognise that we're in something for. I mean, you can talk about the Olympics, but forget that really as an England squad for 12 months' time. And, you know, I don't want to be peaking now in 2021. I want to be peaking this time next year, heading into the Euros at home. So I don't mind experimenting a bit in friendlies now, mixing the squad a bit. You know, we've seen Stokes get half an hour today, coming back from injury. We're probably going to see some changes in the second half. Probably, hopefully, see Tooney come on. You know, hopefully, Lucy Bronze will come back from injury and so on. But I don't mind messing around with the lineup, trying things out and stuff in leagues this year. This time next year, I want a much more settled squad, much more settled England squad. You know, at the moment, all these players are thinking about is going to be, am I going to get in that Olympic squad? These are like Olympic trials almost. Whereas you've got people in Northern Ireland tonight playing for a spot of the Euros. That's probably going to give them a better indicator of strength. Yeah, I just think, you know, look at the end goal and focus on that. And if you have the odd blip along the way, well, as long as you're peaking, you know, at that tournament, then that's the cycle as it should be.
Yeah. John, I'm going to sort of bring you in and ask then, based on what Gareth said, do you think, I mean, obviously, you know, they are friendlies. do you think now would be the time to experiment, like Gareth talks about, sort of for the long term? So obviously with a view to the Olympics, with a view to home Euros, and then obviously after that, the World Cup.
It works both ways, doesn't it? Because friendlies are the time to experiment, because if it goes wrong, then it doesn't mean anything. But you can also look at it the other way. It's a time to get a settled starting 11 or a settled squad that can build that relationship and hit the ground running at the Olympics. Yeah, so I saw the highlights of the game. I didn't actually watch it live, and yeah, I was a little bit disappointed as well, to be honest. I think the fullbacks kind of got ripped apart because the France's midfield had too much time on the ball, managed to pick out quite a lot of passes. France was actually making like a lot of driving runs as well. So even when they had the ball, if they weren't passing, there was running right up to our penalty box and then kind of picking out key passes. So I do think that our midfield kind of let us down a little bit there. As Gareth said, we did have chances at 2-1 down to make it 2-2 by hitting the post. But to me, I don't think we deserved to win after watching them highlights. And yeah, just a bit disappointing really. I was kind of expecting a bit more. Obviously, I didn't know it was the B team at the time when we did lose, until obviously I did a bit more research, because I thought to myself, well, France are a good team anyway. So I was kind of expecting it to be tough. But when I actually saw the starting lineup and chatting to you guys and realised that they had quite a few players out, yeah, it was a bit of a disappointing result, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, something Vic's mentioned there, it's not been great for a while now. I think for me, we saw under Phil Neville that, defensively we weren't great, we weren't solid. And this seems to have obviously continued now, sort of in with this interim manager. I think the worry for me is just how much France carved us open. I know I watched the halftime analysis with sort of great interest with Casey Stoney, and she sort of highlighted that the fact that, the midfield, it wasn't, as a unit, it wasn't compact. There was massive gaps and there was holes in the defence. And I think there was one point where I think it was the centre half, I think it was Lottie Wubben-Moy, ended up at sort of the full-back position to cover. And I think it's something where we've got to work on that. We've got to work on shape. We've got to work on sort of transitions with and without the ball. And it's got to be a collective. And I think, what we saw the other day was we saw three midfielders where they were quite attacking. We had Frank Kirby, Beth Mead, and Nikita Paris, which is absolutely fine. But you've sort of, you've got nobody there to kind of, you could probably argue maybe, about Kira Walsh possibly. But, it's difficult. Plus the fact that obviously we had a right back, it wasn't a right back playing in Rachel Daly. It just baffles me as to sort of, Anthony, did you manage to catch the game? So what were your thoughts then on the game against France last week?
I was a bit like John. I saw the highlights. Pretty much saw the goals. Obviously, is it Baltimore? She obviously ripped England apart with a direct running at them, and they were pretty much scared of her. Couldn't cope with her. It's a bit with the chances and that, they're a bit like United at times. They had some decent chances, but failed to take them. And like Gareth says, if you take a chance when you're 2-1 down, it's 2-2, isn't it? It changes the complex of the game. You might not necessarily go so gung-ho, leaving gaps at the back. But it is the right. I would agree. It's the right time to experiment. On the previous comment, because obviously you want to try and get in for the Olympics and even the Euros in a year. You look even with the men's team now. There's people that are 2 months ago. Jesse Lingard's nowhere near the plane, is he? Now he's seriously got to be considered. He's getting that game time. His confidence is sky high. So it all depends on club form as well. If I think people like Lauren James and that, if they can have a good season, and that, and get their chance in international. Who knows? And they'll all be a year older, so it's a year's more experience. But with the France game, it was just it was a bit like you didn't take your chances, and then if you don't defend well, we know at this level you're going to get punished.
It's interesting from kind of the discussion. I've seen Vix there mention that needing lad or little to shore up that midfield, and tonight I looked at the lineup and thought this is a really big lineup because you've got Nobbs and Stanway and Keats and Hemp, England and Kirby. So you've got 6 really attacking players, but it seems to be actually that Stanway is playing deeper as a more kind of defensive-minded midfielder, and she's actually playing really well. I think she's one of the better players on the pitch for the first 45 minutes. Now, she won't play the whole game. She may even come off at half-time. We'll see in a minute. But yeah, she's played really well and kind of seems to be holding that midfield together a little bit more. And that comment there about club form not mattering, and the previous one about Millie Bright is actually quite interesting because I think Millie Bright's quality for Chelsea, and I think she gets picked based on that, but she never seems to play as well for England. I think Williamson should be first choice centre half, probably with Millie Bright as well. I think that as a combination of a centre half partnership is good. Tooney's coming on at half time. So yeah, it's interesting. I think it's a strange one. I think also the dynamic of having a temporary manager as well is going to feel a bit strange. You're kind of doing all this work only for it to change again in a few months' time. So yeah, the whole dynamic is a bit strange. But yeah, it's a really attacking squad tonight. And I think if you've got arguably the most informed player in the world in Fran Kirby, and she's not getting on the ball and she's not getting those chances, then something is wrong in the way you're setting your team up.
Yeah, it's interesting because that was going to be my next question about setup. I think for me, and I sort of touched on it from the game last week, it's 4-3-3, it's attacking, which is great, but that midfield is so narrow, full of attacking players, that your 4-3-3 just doesn't work. It almost becomes a 4-0 and a 6 for me, or there's big gaps, and I think that was the problem Friday. It's been the problem for past few games now, hasn't it, where we've seen things and they've not worked, and there seems to be a reluctance. I think this is what annoys people. There's a reluctance with the Lionesses that somebody else has come in managerial wise, and it's still the same old faces. And I know there's been a lot of people vocal on it, and it's something I've talked about where now we need to start giving players a chance on form, because it still feels like they're given a chance based on name. I mean, tonight, for example, Kylie Telford, she's 4th choice for Chelsea, but she's viewed as the 2nd choice for the Lionesses, where, people are saying, it's experience, but Karen Bardsley's more experienced. And then you've got a better keeper on the bench in Sandy McKeever that's not getting a chance. So I think for me, things have to change and quickly, because like you said, with an Olympics coming up, and then obviously there'll be change in management again. It's going to be like pretty much starting again if the new manager comes in and has a completely different sort of style of play or way of playing. John, obviously I'm going to sort of throw in our 2 at the minute. Millie Turner and Ella Toone seem to be picked regularly. Tooney came on, made a debut, scored the penalty. I think Gareth mentioned she was coming on tonight. Where do you see sort of things, for her England career then? Obviously she's just come on now, so 2nd appearance. Do you see her now kicking on and becoming a regular as long as she's playing regularly for us?
Yeah, it's tough because she's got competition, and you mentioned Kirby, and she plays, I guess, in a similar role with that attacking midfielder. So if I'm honest, I probably wouldn't choose in front of her, because we talk about being in form, and Kirby is actually in form. But if there's a way to play both of them together, then yeah, absolutely. I do think that Tooney deserves a spot this season. I know the last few games for the whole of United squad hasn't been the best, but if you have a look at where she's come from, like from last season to this season, she has been one of Casey's first choices across the whole season in a squad, in a club that looks like it's going to finish 4th in the league. For a long time, she was like first, second, or third in the league. So she definitely deserves them chances. And I do think that she'll kick on. I do think that she'll continue to play for United going into next season. And yeah, for me, I can just see her career just going from strength to strength because of how well she'll do for United as well. Look, I think a lot of Tooney, and I think that she'll be like a one club player. I do think that she'll stay at United, and I'm hoping, this is what I'm hoping more than anything, but I do think that she's got the potential to stay there, and then she can grow into an international player as well. For me, yeah, she definitely needs to be picked in the squad. I understand why she may not be picked in the starting 11 just yet, but there's no rush. You know, she's still young. She can still ease her way in there. And yeah, she definitely deserves a call up, definitely.
In terms then of Millie, I'm going to ask this question to you, Anthony. Were you surprised that Millie Turner maybe either one hasn't made an appearance or two got called up earlier than this season, obviously based on a form last season and obviously in our first season as well?
Am I surprised? Not really. When Phil Neville was in charge, he had his players, didn't he? It was very much like, oh well, this is my team. Didn't really have much room for change. So it was a bit like England back in the day, where they had a set team, and unless there was loads of injuries, you didn't really get a chance. Yes, from her form last year, she should have been in the England squad a lot sooner and been given a chance. But we watched her this season. I think most of us admit she's not been as good as we know she can be. I don't know why that is, but a few mistakes are creeping into her game, which I'm sure she'll work to get erased. But I don't know, because she got her England call up this year, but I don't think you say it's because of the England call up, but I think she definitely needs to concentrate on getting her best form back for United, and if she does get a chance for England, then yes, great.
Matt, is there anyone who plays for United who you think should have been called up, who wasn't called up?
I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? Because obviously I'd have said LJ, but then the trouble is that she's been injured for huge amounts this season. So I think for me, she'd have probably been in there. Lucy Stan as well, again, probably put herself in a similar boat. I think she's been unfortunate with injuries, and she is usually in there. So I think LJ and Staniforth, definitely. Obviously, Alessia is also injured. So again, she'd have been somebody else. It's difficult when obviously players are injured, but I think, for me, and I've always sort of said this a lot, is that Mary, I'm still struggling to understand, these managers talk about, oh, well, if you're playing weekly and you're doing well, you'll get picked. Now, obviously, yes, in terms of club, we've had a slight wobble. But I think if you're looking at, quality, Mary's stats up until sort of January were equal to Ellie Roebuck, who's number one. And there's the argument about experience, and I get that. But then it's like, for me, take Karen Bardsley, who's a better keeper than Telford anyway. It's one of them. I don't know. I think, sadly, and Mary has talked about sort of the disappointment of being left out of England. I think she's kind of probably more now focused on United, which, I mean, it's great for us. But in terms of her Lioness career, I think it's been one of her ones. It's been unfortunate because there's been a lot of goalkeepers come through. And it's probably similar to now. We're talking about Millie Bright, and I'd argue there's probably quite a lot of young centre-halves coming through now. You look at Lottie Wubben-Moore, you look at Leah Williamson, Millie Bright's still not that old. So there's competition now, and it's a lot better than what it was. Again, I'd put Leah Galton in the bracket if she was willing to play for England, of, somebody that would have been or should have been called up. So there's always opportunities for the United players. I think it just comes down to purely fitness and form. I really do. But that's just my sort of personal thoughts. But I'm gonna ask you this, Gareth. Do you think, in terms of changes, let's say we're changing England up, do you think we need a few changes, or a few is in, say, 2 or 3, or would you be sort of saying maybe there's probably 5 or 6 in that team where they shouldn't be in the starting 11 or even in the team?
I think only a couple. I think if you look at the goalkeeping situation, although Telford is usually in the squad, she's not England's number one. I think Roebuck is obviously England's number one and will be for, if she stays injury free, she could be England's number one for 10 years.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty settled. I think the defence needs a bit of tweaking. I think Bronze and Greenwood are the best 2 fullbacks. And then I think your defence should be probably Williamson with then one other. I think that's where the change needs to be. I think we need to break this partnership of Steph Horton and Millie Bright. Maybe go with one of them with Leah. And then just find a settled midfield. I think, if you look at the attackers, there's lots of them. And I think rotation there is great. Kelly, Hemp, England, White, Paris, Kirby, Tooney coming in there now as well. Russo, LJ, there's a lot of players there that you can rotate through. And I don't think we need to change a lot there. It's about finding the balance. It's about getting that settled midfield and finding that player that can link the attack and defence. I think that's going to be really important. You've got Jordan Nobbs, but can she do that? Maybe if she stays injury free, but that's a big if. I think that's where the changes come. Maybe a tweak in defence, and then just find the settled midfield and stick with that and go with that.
Yeah. Well, do you want to sort of touch on that point there from Vix about Jill Scott? Obviously, Jill's an England legend, legend in the WSL. She played for many years. But do you feel now that maybe her, or maybe you might have another example, possibly, that maybe now should make way for a youngster? I mean, obviously, she left City due to lack of game time. She does play regularly at Everton, but like Gareth said, there are other options now where there might be a little bit of a better link between midfield and attack. Kira Walsh, Frank Kirby, there's Ella Toon. There's plenty of options, isn't there, in terms of that position that she plays for sort of the Lionesses. Do you feel now then that her time may be up, or would you sort of keep her in just for experience?
So was that on me, Matt?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. Yeah, I do. I mean, I haven't picked her for my Olympic squad. Look, I've tried to pick players now who can potentially take us to the future. And as good as Jill Scott's been, even Man City supporters that I chat to didn't really see her play much for the rest of the season at Man City before she got loaned out. There's an argument you could put them in for experience, but there's still players that are going to be played that's got experience. And it's a shame to leave the likes of, say, for example, Ella Toon out or other players just because of her experience. And this is nothing against her. Obviously, her history speaks for itself. But if we're basing it on form and, look at the team that she plays for now isn't the fact that it isn't the top 4 team, is it? So you've got to play players who are not only in form, but who are playing at the highest level in their league, in my opinion, or at least really doing something special for their club. So, I think it's probably time for Jill Scott to probably not be first choice, at least.
Yeah. Anthony, sort of your thoughts on that, or maybe if you could give a player as well that you think might come in instead of Jill?
I agree with John. I think now's the time to give the younger players a chance. We all know you don't get experience unless you get given that chance to play. She's been a great servant, got all them caps, but you want to think of the future. She's not going to be there for the next World Cup. So you want to these other players sort of like give them that experience, give the tournament experience, and then if it's disappointing, they learn from that experience and come back stronger. Whereas Jill's been there, done that. In terms of people that can come in for her, you've got people like Kira Walsh, haven't you? And obviously Tony's a bit of a different position than Jill Scott, but you got Stansforth and all that. I know they've been in and around the England team a bit now, but they're still quite young, and you want to look to the future, bit of stability, good team in that. So yeah, I would people like Jill Scott, even Steph Horton, I would start thinking about. I'd say Steph Horton would be a squad player if we're looking to the future. Yeah, she's good to come on for experience if Millie Bright or someone gets injured. But I agree. Look to the future. Give the other players a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. I think another thing what's interesting as well is I'm sort of looking at it from the future point of view. And I think that, it must be, I mean, for a young player, it must be probably quite frightening to make sort of the big step up from 21s, 23s to seniors. Now, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, right, 18 go to the Olympics. Would Jill Scott likely be in that 18? Probably not for Team GB. You could argue that as well for others, and I know we're going to get onto picking our teams, but for me, Carly Telford doesn't go. In terms of Olympics, could Steph go? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, she's injured at the moment. Again, it depends on form. And there's sort of question marks over at least 4 for me anyway, players like that. I'm thinking, well, if they're playing friendlies, that's denying somebody a chance that might be going to the Olympics to be involved in the setup. And then I think, right, the next tournament is the 2022 Euros. Is Jill Scott, age 39, going to be there? Probably not. Is Carly Telford, when she's in a part-time contract on Chelsea, sort of player coach? Probably not. And again, it's like not blocking the pathway, but for me, it would make more sense in these friendlies to bring players through, to give them a chance. And like you say, then if there is mistakes made, they learn from it and they learn in a friendly rather than at a major tournament. And I think if you look at the models of like Germany and Spain in the men's, they start off, don't they, all together in the 23s and work the way up. I think that's the way to do it. Let's now build for the future. We've got players in there, and it sounds bad saying they're sort of clinging on, but in a way, it's what it feels like because we've got these players coming through and looking forward to sort of tournaments where we can only take a certain number of players. It's got to be the right players, hasn't it? It's got to be players that are going to be playing and fit for the club and also for country. We don't want to take 18 to the Olympics and then somebody get injured when it's only like a 2 or 3 week tournament, and then be stuck with like 17 players. So I think we massively have to sort of think about this going forward. Going to move on, also on the theme of Olympics. I'll come to you first, John. Where do you rate Team GB's chances in terms of picking up? We'll say picking up a medal, because if I say winning it outright, I know somebody will come back in sort of July, August and absolutely batter this. So I'm going to say a bronze, a silver or a gold medal. Where do you rank our chances as hopeful in getting one of them or not?
I would probably say if he gets through to semi-finals, I think that would be an achievement, which is a shame because I don't think it has to be that way. But I just think based on form, what I've seen lately, I wouldn't say I'm hopeful. But tournaments are completely different, aren't they? When you're actually, when you're in friendlies and qualifying stages where you play once every now and again, it is different. When you're in a camp, it is different. But I think if you can, I can't see us beating the top 2 teams out there, if I'm honest. So if you can get into the top 4, then maybe. But yeah, I think probably quarters. But I'd love, even if we just get to a semi-final and just, give a good account of ourselves there, that'll be good. But I'm probably thinking quarterfinals, to be honest. I think we need a bit of luck to get into the semi-final. Yeah, which is a shame.
Yeah, I know it's one of them. This is again why I say, I talk about building and using that. Maybe, like you say, we're probably not there in terms of competing at the top level. However, if we can build a core, I mean, no disrespect to the other nations, but I think the core of the Olympic will probably be at least a good 8, maybe 10 Lionesses in there. Gareth, your thoughts then on Olympics? Do you see us? Do you agree with John? Do you disagree? Or
I think we should definitely kind of at least be aiming for the bronze medal. If you look at that, if you look at the teams that are there. And I've got the list here. There's Netherlands who have a strong squad. You would imagine they would be there or thereabouts. Sweden, definitely beatable. Canada, I mean, we've been the better side for 60 minutes. We've just not been clinical. So we can definitely beat Canada. USA, I think, are the favourites to win the whole thing. Zambia, Japan, China, Brazil, Chile, we can beat all of them. And then New Zealand and Australia aren't unbeatable either. I think, there's only really the USA where you think they're head and shoulders above where we should be. Netherlands, I think, do have a stronger squad than us. So I would imagine that they would be the favourites for the gold and silver, depending on how the draw is. But I think that bronze medal is all to play for. Like, if we're going out in the quarterfinal, that's really disappointing.
Yeah. Anthony, your thoughts on Olympics? Obviously, you've heard sort of two opinions there. People in the comments have said things. What are your thoughts on Team GB?
Well, it's interesting what Gareth said with the teams that are in the Olympics. Obviously, I didn't know it was in the Olympics. Obviously, it's always the USA and that, but I didn't realise teams like Germany and Spain weren't in it. So with the teams he said and the right draw, we should be thinking at least a bronze medal. Yeah, you could be really unlucky and get USA in the first knockout game. But if the draw's right, then why not? Why can't they pick up a bronze medal or even a silver? If you only have to look at the World Cup for the men's last year, and I think we got an easy draw, but we still couldn't get to the final. So, but no, I agree with teams like Gareth said, Holland, USA. Yeah, they're going to be the teams to beat, but teams like Japan and Zambia and that. If you can't beat them, then you haven't got much hope, have you?
Well, go on, John.
How about the ones in the middle then, like the likes of like Canada and Brazil and Australia? Can you see any like banana skins there? Because that's what I was kind of thinking, that we should be winning them on paper, but the way we're playing at the moment, and that's what I was kind of looking at the negative side for a change, to be honest. But what are your thoughts on that one, Matt?
I mean, to be fair, it's a good point. I think I'm thinking more, can they play together? I mean, I link it back to something we talked about earlier in the show. I think it was Gareth that mentioned it. He said, how good Millie Bright is for Chelsea and doesn't take that form into England. So I'm thinking, well, we've got Team GB. We sort of need to remember this is obviously other nations that are going to be joining us to make Team GB. And I think if we don't gel as a team and we've only got a certain amount of time to do it, and let's be honest, we're not going to be surprised if we got many, if any, friendlies as Team GB. I think, they'll just kind of chuck them all in together and off we go. But, I mean, it's one of them. It could go either way. There could be potential banana skins, against the likes of Brazil, like you mentioned, and some of the lesser teams. You just never know. I mean, we've seen sort of Lionesses over the past sort of not even tonight and last week's game, but, past few games look a bit vulnerable at times. And, it's something where it's going to be interesting. I think another thing is obviously it's a tournament as well, isn't it? And something that Vix mentions, if I just get the comment up about mindset, the pressure, it's Team GB. People are expecting good things. Women's football is massively on the up, has been now for the past sort of 2, 3, 4 years. And I think, can we deal with that pressure? Can we have the mindset to go out there and put in a performance and sort of, do the home nations and ourselves proud? That remains to be seen. But yeah, I'll pass over to Gareth and sort of let him speak for a bit, and then we'll go on to our Olympic 18s.
I think another thing to think of when we're picking a squad for the Olympics, we talk about them gelling, but if you're picking, let's say, for example, in your midfield, you're picking people like Sophie Ingle, Caroline Weir, for example, from Wales and Scotland. It's not as though you're picking players that have never played with them before. If you've got Sophie Ingle in that midfield, she plays with Millie Bright every week. She plays with Fran Kirby every week. If you've got Caroline Weir in there, all of the City players trains and plays every week. So I think that isn't going to be the massive issue. I think the issue is going to be the fact that you're going to have 7 or 8 games, however many it is, in the space of 2.5, 3 weeks, or however long a tournament is. There's a lot of games in quick succession, so you're going to need players that aren't prone to injury. So your players like Steph Horton, Jordan Nobbs, who have problems with injuries. I don't think really you kind of want them there. Another thing is, because it's only a squad of 18, and normally at tournaments, you've got a 23-player squad, you're going to want players that can play in a number of positions. So, I mean, we'll get onto individuals later, but, Alex Greenwood's playing centre-half for City this year. That's going to go in her favour against Demi Stokes. And you imagine it's going to be between those two. Although Daly isn't naturally a right-back, she can play there or anywhere along that right-hand side, which, again, is going to go in her favour. So, yeah, I think the key thing Reece is going to have to think about is going to be kind of fitness. Are these players fit enough after a full season and then, a period of off season? They're not coming in with a pre-season to get fit again. They've just got to go in August and play those games in quick succession. And also, has she got players that can play 2-3 positions, because they're going to be really valuable. If Lucy Bronze gets injured, for example, and you've got Daly that can just slot back, or if Paris gets injured, you can stick Daly on that right-hand side. That's really going to kind of work in her favour.
Yeah, absolutely. Going to move on then. Pick a little bit of fun. We're going to pick our Olympic 18 squad. So hopefully you've had a think about it and you've got your pen and paper. I think John's been that keen, he's dashed off already. So yeah, I'm going to give you a few minutes to write down and have a think about your Olympic team. I'm going to do it as well, just for a bit of fun. And hopefully when John gets back, he's either done his or had a think about it. So yeah, give you a couple of minutes. If anybody's got any comments that they want answering or anything to put in the comments box, then go for it. Are you back, John? I was just saying, we're going on to our Olympic 18, and you were that keen that you ran off already. But if you want to sort of jot it down, have a think about it, and then we'll discuss sort of who's what. This could be quite interesting. So you're only allowed 18 players, so starting 11 and then subs. Yeah.
Okay.
I can tell you're a teacher.
I'll give you all time, a couple of minutes to do that.
When you're coming out.
I love doing that. It's funny. You get homework on my show. You also get research. You get reading to do beforehand and videos. I make sure you're all prepared. It's what brings the fun to the show.
See, as another,
just look at your intentions and no reward.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've got my squad ready. I did my homework on time. Although
Anthony's definitely not done his own work on time. He looks confused as always.
No, I've got a list of 27 people that potentially could get in the squad.
27?
Yeah.
What? How many? 18, Carl.
Yeah, I know.
B team. Just 18.
I'm going to have to crop
crop it? You've got to crop 33% off that.
I'll do it.
My days. Well, Gareth, you get 10 house points off Vix. I'm going to give you 10 as well. Anthony, you've got to come and see me after the lesson with your maths.
I was
John,
always right.
John, have you got your 18 to hand whilst we just sort of catch up while Anthony narrows his 27 down to 18?
I've got a start 11. I've got a start 11, a few subs.
Right,
I've got 18. Yeah, but I'm close to it. I'm close to it.
That's fine. Have you got a formation, or have you not gone that far?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. I like my 4-3-3.
Give us your formation and read your team.
Yeah, so I've gone for. I have gone for Roebuck because I know more about the English players than I do the Scottish, Welsh, and Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
So I've gone for Roebuck in goal. Now I've gone for Greenwood as left back. Just because I do like the attacking fullbacks. She's had, Man City's had a decent season, so props, credit where credit's due there. I've gone for Williamson and Bright in the centre back positions. Much like what you guys have already said tonight about Steph Horton, I just think that if I'm looking at the future, I don't think she needs to be there in the starting 11. And then I've chosen someone who I didn't want to choose because I've gone against what I've just said. But I've just gone for I've gone for Bronze because I just think that she's possibly our best right back. But you guys kind of know a little bit more than I do on that one. Midfield, I've gone for Hayley Ladd just to kind of spice it up a little bit regarding not all English team. But if we play Hayley Ladd, that allows us to be a bit more attacking with the other two midfielders. So I've gone for Stanway and Kirby as like an attacking two midfielders. Out wide, I've gone for Paris and Hemp. I would like to see Galton, but obviously that's not going to happen. So I've gone for Paris and Hemp. And a little bit out of the ordinary, I've gone for Russo. I know that she's not played all season, but I just think that if you play her game in, game out, I'd love to see. I'd just love to see it happen. So yeah, that's my starting 11. As for subs, I haven't really got any actually written down, but I'll let the other guys speak first. But obviously, there's a couple of United players that I've put in there definitely, and a few more experienced players, I think.
Okay, Gareth, we'll move on to you and your Olympic 18.
Okay, it looks quite similar. I've gone for Roebuck in goal as well. I think she's, far and away head and shoulders above kind of every other goalkeeper that's available for selection at the moment. I've gone for Bronze at right back, and I'd make her captain. Williamson and Bright again in midfield for similar reasons that John said.
No, I'm fine.
Yeah, Williamson and Bright again in midfield, centre half, and then Greenwood again at left back. Greenwood over Stokes mainly because I think she's better from a set piece, which could be important, and is a bit more versatile in terms of going forward and playing centre half if need be. Midfield slightly different. I would go for Weir and Stanway, kind of as your two orthodox central midfielders, with Kirby playing in front of those. And then I would go, again, similar to John, Keats on the right, Hemp on the left, but with England up top instead of Russo. I think Russo coming back off an injury, I'm not sure the fitness is going to be there for selection. And just to quickly reel through my subs, because they're there anyway. McKeever is the backup goalkeeper. I don't think really need experience going there. Roebuck has played enough senior football to carry that mantle anyway. Then Wubbenmoy as your kind of backup centre half. And then in midfield, Sophie Ingle, Kira Walsh, Kim Little as your subs. And then Daly for reasons of versatility, like mentioned before, and Kelly as an alternative striker. Again, they can kind of play anywhere across that front three. It was difficult between that last position with either picking Chloe Kelly or kind of going with another defensive option, probably Jen Beattie. But thought if you score more goals than them, you'll win the game. So plump for Kelly there.
Well, it's interesting that. So two different teams, and then I'm going to throw a spanner in the works whilst Anthony's finishing doing his maths in his stress look. So I've gone for I've gone for my trusted 4-1-3-2 that I keep harping on about that we should do at United. So agree with you two. I've gone for Roebuck in goal. I've gone for Bronze right back. I've gone Greenwood left back. Now this is where my centre halves get interesting, because I've put Lottie Wubben-Moy in with Leah Wilson. And the reason being, I'm just thinking the Arsenal partnership, they've played most of the season together. It should be, in my view, the future partnership for England. So I thought, you know what, why not go for the two Arsenal centre halves? My holding one, Sophie Ingle. I wanted to put Hayley in, but I thought can't be too biased sort of on United. My three midfield, I've got Frank Kirby central, I've got Lauren Hemp left, and Erin Cuthbert out on the right. And then my two forwards, I was a bit like you, Gareth. I wanted to put Russo in, but I thought because she's not played, I had to stick her on the bench. I've gone for Beth England and Nikita Paris as my 11. Subs, I've agreed with you, Gareth. I've gone for McKeever, simply on the fact that we don't, for me, in the Olympics, need experience. Plus, if Roebuck does get injured, McKeever's played a lot this season, and KB's had to go out on loan to get games. And I'll be honest, I'm not a Scooby how she's doing out in America. Haley Ladd's on my bench. Chloe Kelly is on my bench. Caroline Weir, Jordan Nobbs, Alessia Russo, and I've decided to chuck in Jess Fishlock, just thinking for sort of that leader in midfield and something different. The only issue I will have is that if we get any injuries in defence, it's going to have to be Haley Ladd, Sophie Ingle that controversially slots in there because my bench is very sort of attacking minded. But yeah, that's where I've gone. I think what we'll do as well, I'll let you read yours in a sec, Anthony, is we'll tweet these out on All for United and we'll let the viewers sort of agree, disagree, slate us, praise our expert footballing knowledge or whatever. It'd just be to get everybody involved, get people involved with their Team GB and Olympic chat. So, Anthony, let's start with your hopefully 18-player squad, your subs and your formation.
Okay. Well, I haven't really thought of a formation, but I'd probably have a defensive midfielder in there. So,
right, I tell you what, just read out.
I'll say a 4-1-3-2.
Amazing.
Is that right?
Okay.
Yeah, 4-1-3-2. I think it's pretty obvious. I'd start with Ellie Roebuck in goal. And then right back, I'd go for Lucy Bronze. Left back, I'd go for Greenwood. And then the centre-back pairing, I'd go for Leah Williamson and Millie Bright. The holding midfielder, I'd go for Sophie Ingle. She can also play in defence. And then I would go... No, Anthony's face is red as his T-shirt. I don't get why...
Oh, my God.
So then
Carry on.
I'd put Caroline Weir on the left, Kirby in the middle, Laura Hemp on the right, and then
Is that Lauren's sister?
Laura. Sorry, Laura. Is it Laura?
Lauren.
No, it's
Lauren.
Lauren. Sorry, Laura.
Yeah.
Oh, disaster.
Oh my God.
And then up front, I would have. See, no one said this one yet. I'd say Ellen White and Nikita Paris. And then
Fair enough. Subs.
I've gone for Mary.
Yep, good.
Then I've got Lottie Wibbermoy.
Yep.
I've got Stanway. That Scottish player, I can't pronounce her name. The one who plays for Chelsea, Ellie Cuthbert.
Erin Cuthbert.
I've actually put Beth Mead in my 18.
Okay.
And then I've gone for Russo and Chloe Kelly. Is that 18?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've not counted. I'm just agreeing that your maths has improved since 10 minutes. Yeah. So that's that. So yeah, brilliant. Quite varied then, which is always interesting. And I like Vix's idea. I think what we will do is we'll put all four out. We'll tweet them. We'll do separate tweets. You can see the team and the formations. There's a little app you can do that on. So I'll set that up. We'll put it to vote. And then I think what we'll do is we will let viewers as well either add their team or add comments. And yeah, that'll just be a nice little sort of thing to finish off this week with. I'm cautious of time. Obviously, we've got a couple of bits to sort of end the show on. So I'm going to wrap it there. Just before we do finish then, we've got each of our socials, as always, on screen for Twitter. John, you're back Friday, aren't you? Because Thursday's the Men's Europa League game.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting one. So Natalie's back, and we've got Whitney, who's an American guest, massive fan of Tarbin Heath, knows a bit about Christian Press as well, but she's also very, she's a Man United fan as well. So she's not just Player FC, she's Man United fan as well. So it's going to be an interesting one. The topic will actually be United versus Player FC. So let's get stuck into this one. It's going to be quite a bit of a debate on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, looking forward to that. It's a night off for me, but like I say, it's always interesting, isn't it? Because you get people that sort of follow a player or players, and some that follow obviously a team. And we've noticed that a lot more this year, especially with American fans jumping on. After Friday, me and Ben are back Saturday 8 p.m. with our usual Saturday Night Live. After that, then we are back. We're back with the match reaction, aren't we, John? What we're doing that?
Yeah, we're not sure what day yet because it depends on the All for United account. I think there's going to be a George Best special on the Monday, perhaps. So we may jump onto the Tuesday, but that's still up in the air at the moment. But it'll be Monday or Tuesday, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking forward even further, we are coming up to our 50th show, aren't we, John? After the Tottenham game's the 25th. So the match reaction to that will be our 50th show. And that's when we plan on launching our YouTube. So we're pleased to say now that will be our 50th show. We've got a few left. We're not going to give too much away, but we've got sort of that planned. We have a YouTube. We will hopefully see you all transfer across on YouTube. Who knows? We might still keep a couple of Twitter lives, as and when any breaking news comes out, or if we're out and about on our travels reporting on things. Twitter Live is quite easy on the go to sort of put streams out there and get you guys involved. So, yeah, but like I say, YouTube is now ready to be launched, like I say, for that 50th show. And I think it's only right that our 50th show, we do mark it with obviously the launch of the YouTube channel. So thank you to everyone, as always, for your support, for your comments. It's massively appreciated. Thanks to you three for joining me as well tonight. And we will see you all, hopefully, with John and Natalie on Friday. Cheers, guys.
Take care.
See you later.
Take care. Bye.